My name is Mel Eslin. I am the president of Duplass Brothers Productions.
It's weird to make those titles, but you're the prez.
I'm like, what are you then?
I'm Mark Duplass. I'm one of the original Duplass brothers. I'm the younger one, but I look a lot older, and it causes some confusion and also some tension between me and my brother. We have 4 shows here. One is called The Long, Long Night. It's a show I partnered with one of my oldest friends and one of the most deeply talented playwrights I've ever known, who hasn't gotten his due. And he's just obsessed with being a good citizen to the point where he really can't live his life and enjoy it, trying to save the earth and trying to save all those around him. So it's a dark comedy about 2 middle-aged white guys who really feel like they shouldn't be here on this planet unless they're doing good. And the only solution they can come up with that is ecologically and socially sound is to check into a motel and kill themselves.
And then we have The Broadcast, which is a post-apocalyptic show about 2 women who you aren't sure if they're the last 2 women on Earth, but you know that they're the last 2 people allowed to do a daily broadcast of the news. Yeah, I feel like I can't say any more than that.
Bro. That news. Yeah, and that show's kind of like a really fun, like, clown theater, absurdist, like somewhere between Looney Tunes and Broad City. The next show is Riley Walker and Friends, which is a documentary series. It's something I directed, I think, along the veins of, Painting with John or How To with John Wilson. And it stars a musician named Riley Walker, one of the, best musicians you've never heard of, who is hitting 30, recovering addict, questioning, where is my place in this music business? My back hurts, the touring van smells like farts. What's this all about? And he sits with a different musician for each episode. Sometimes they talk about music, sometimes they write a song, and they try and work through it.
Yeah, and then we've got Penelope, which is a show Mark and I co-created, and that is about a 16-year-old girl named Penelope who runs away and goes to live in the woods and try and build a new, quieter, more thoughtful way of life at 16.
And they're all sort of a range of what we see independent television being, from Riley Walker, which is, a follow documentary that can be made really, really cheaply, and you just see what you get, all the way up to Penelope, which is really meant to be an alternative means of making a premium young adult show that can play on any big network around. So we don't pretend to know what's going to hit or what people are going to want to buy. We're nervous, but we're excited. The thing about indie episodic television is that it is not a thing. That's what we like about it. There is no ecosystem yet, and there is no form that definitely works or definitely doesn't work. There have been fledgling attempts to get this thing started. There are film festivals that have sections where sometimes independently made pilots will come and show there. Sometimes a big network will premiere their already made show there. But what we're trying to do is a little different in that we're trying to liken it to what independent film did at a place like Sundance in like the late 80s or the early 90s, where it was a dearth of films like that being made because of the nature of the Hollywood system. And people started to say, we want to make these films, but there was really no place to put them. And we're experiencing a little bit of that right now. But eventually, this whole ecosystem built around it. Either the big studios would buy them at Sundance, or they wouldn't, and then these smaller distributors like IFC and Magnolia started to pop up, and this whole lake just built around the entire system. So I don't know if that's going to happen here, but that's something we're aiming for, and I think the major difference about what we're doing here is that in independent TV, traditionally, just a pilot is made, and you're still completely dependent on somebody to come and give you the rest of the financing, pick you up to make the season. We're trying to design entire seasons of television that can be made independently, that can be financed at a budget that makes sense, either to come directly out of our pockets from the money we make doing other things, or I make as an actor, or with a third-party financier potentially. But using those same principles of how Mel and I and Jay got started. We would make a movie for $100,000, bring it to a festival, sell it really well, share the profits with everybody. And we want to do that same thing in TV. And the main reason, I think, is that lovely middle of television that was thriving so well in the boom of peak TV, these wonderful shows that shot through from Phoebe Waller-Bridge, or a show like Painting with John that would show up on HBO, those are going away. That is the most endangered species right now in the reduction of viewership and in the sort of merging and vertical integration of these companies. And so we're looking at that as like the endangered species we want to protect.
Yeah. I think it was an easy transition for us to go from, rather than shoot the pilot, you know, like Mark said, we came up shooting indie films on our own, and we're like, this is just a longer film, and then we're going to chop it up, and it's going to kind of look the same thing, just take a bit longer. So it's, you know, it's been cool to kind of just see the whole thing through, rather than wait, have somebody else come in and put their vision on it and have to battle a little bit.
Every show that we're showing here at this showcase at South by Southwest, we're just showing one episode from each of the 4 shows, but they're all completed seasons, anywhere between 6 to 8 episodes, so that we can really have the thing ready to go and be distributed and not be dependent on someone saying, well, maybe if you change it a little bit, then we'll make your next 5 episodes, because that's just that really tough part of the television process that is different than independent film. You know, it's a longer process. There are a lot of cooks in the kitchen. It's a bigger economic spend traditionally, unless you design them cheaply, which we do. So they're more fearful, right? And it just requires more time. We're trying to eliminate that as much as we can. We have a little bit of history with independent TV. You know, we made a series called Animals for HBO that was an animated series, and we made 2 episodes of that, and nobody knew what was happening. It was like 2015, and we brought that to Sundance, and like none of the TV buyers were even there. And it took a while for that to find its footing, but eventually we ended up doing that with HBO. They acquired those, and we made them there. Room 104 was a little bit of a separate scenario where we function sort of as an independent television studio, and we make it at a certain price where a place like HBO or Netflix or anybody, you know, at that time would feel like, wow, this is a really good deal for us. We're chasing the next Game of Thrones. Duplass Brothers is curating this thing both creatively and financially responsible. So let's just let them do this thing. It's going to have great reviews. It's going to be added value for our subscribers. And that worked for a little while. But to be clear, that's going away now. Because from the top now, the edicts mostly, and again, I'm being a little bit reductive here, but mostly the mandates are, give me that big thing that's going to stop me from bleeding subscribers. And that, unfortunately, doesn't fall in the range of the wonderful, strange 6-episode series like Killing Eve or like what Phoebe Waller-Bridge makes. That, in our opinion, is what makes this industry beautiful and can break out and can feed the capitalism that they're looking for. So we don't see this as, oh, let's just go lose money on the cool little art things. Like, these are going to be the shows that show up at the Emmys. There's just as much of a chance of that as the big ones you're trying to make. And you're panicked right now, and you're forgetting about a whole sector. What's the backup plan? We don't have the backup plan.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no ecosystem, so I think, you know, that's kind of exciting for us to figure out what are those new avenues. We haven't really delved into self-distribution yet, but, you know, some of them might even call for that. We're excited to try it on certain ones. It feels like, you know, there's opportunity for that. And, you know, then we have something like Penelope, which is a bit more, I think, premium TV. And, you know, I know we're going to find a home for that one. But yeah, I don't know. It's exciting.
It is. And I think that, you know, to get a little bit into the weeds, because I think it is interesting, you know, when you're selling an independent film, it tends to be like, okay, this is the price you pay for it, and that's what it is. These deals are much more complicated, but I think offer an opportunity for either smaller companies who can pop up and get involved, and we can start with them. I mean, we signed a deal to make original films with Netflix over 10 years ago at a time when all the Sundance filmers were like, you're putting your movie on the DVD rental place? And we're like, yeah, it's a place to get it seen, and we're okay with that. And so we want to make space for newer companies to come up that we can co-brand with and help ambassador their new thing. But also, I think there's a version for the bigger companies to say, well, okay, maybe we're not going to spend that huge spend we normally spend on a half hour of TV, but like, what if we try it? We'll give you a 3-year license for it, and we'll try it out here. And then if it goes really well, then we'll rebuy it from you. And if it doesn't, we can resell it somewhere else. So there are a lot of different models which at once make it complicated, but I think make it really interesting for us to figure out. It's not just like Sundance or South by Southwest for a movie where you either sell there or you're toast. There are a lot of different ways it can be done.